Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the documentary of You Don't Have to Put Pork on Everything. Alright? Today we are going to be discussing the things we found in this documentary. Absolutely shocking, absolutely heartbreaking, years and years and years of poison that has been placed on our people, on the world, right? Israelites, so-called Christians and Muslims in the faith who have been fed swine unknowingly. All right, let's get into it. This is the book of Leviticus chapter 11 and verse 7. And the swine, though he divide the hoof and be cloven-footed, yet he cheweth not the cud, he is unclean to you. Let's break down what this cud is. First of all, the cud has everything to do with when animals eat food, they throw up the food and then re-eat the nutrients. Pigs don't do that. All right, that's first and foremost. Neither do they have sweat glands to get rid of the poison and the toxins within their body, right? And what we're going to be covering on this documentary, it's more than just, oh, you can't eat that, right? It has everything to do with the poison and the destruction that it does to your body. All right, verse 8. Of their flesh shall ye not eat, and their carcass shall ye not touch. They are unclean to you. All right. The Lord is saying that these things are unclean to you. You may not touch them. You may not eat them. Right? It's not even expedient if you're a farmer to have pigs in your possession. All right. Now we're going to go over to this picture and it's going to show you things that pertain to swine. Right? Man, where do we start? Right? This is crazy. All right. So right here we have everything but the oink. No other animal provides society with a wider range of products than the hog. Byproducts from pigs play a vital, though less visible, role in maintaining and improving the quality of human life. All right. So we have, let's start with the gelatin from drug capsules. Right. You see that? So people who need medicine, who may call themselves Muslims, who want to abide by dietary law, even the Christians who understand and know better that the swine is unlawful, Hebrew Israelites as well, who push to keep all of the law, right? Gelatin for drug capsules. So that right there is something, messed up, right? Because a lot of people are sick. They need medicine. The doctors give them these type of drug capsules, and they contain gelatin, right? They contain swine, right? You have insulin and ingredients for other medicines. The insulin contains swine, right? There are a lot of our people who take these insulin shots. You know what I mean? And this is what comes with it. All right. Insulin for diabetes. Insulin is a hormone that helps the body regulate blood sugar levels. In people with diabetes, the body either does not produce enough insulin, type 1 diabetes, or does not use insulin effectively, type 2 diabetes. Insulin therapy is used to manage blood sugar levels and prevent complications in both types of diabetes. All right, so we just saw on this picture, right, where it says insulin contains pork. So if you are dealing with diabetes current day and you are taking insulin shots, you are injecting the swine into your bloodstream by default, right? Now, believe me, we are not done. There is indeed more to unpack, right? And if you are thinking, regardless of how much we've shown you and what you are seeing in these pictures, in these videos, eating swine's flesh doesn't endanger your salvation. If you're thinking that, I have a scripture for you right now. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 66, starting at verse 15. For behold, the Lord will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many. They that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree in the midst, eating swine's flesh, and the abomination and the mouse shall be consumed together, saith the Lord. So when the Lord comes back, he is going to kill you with fire and with his chariots, right? With anger. If you are eating swine's flesh and the abomination. What is the abomination, you might ask? That is a whole nother documentary when dealing with unclean foods as a whole. But the abomination goes into verse 9 down to verse 11 in the book of Leviticus chapter 11, right? All the foods that he said that you could not eat, those are the abominations. Any food that he said that you couldn't eat in Leviticus 11, any food that he said you couldn't eat in Deuteronomy 14, those are the abominations, right? If you are eating the abomination and the mouse, swine's flesh, when he pulls up, you are going to be destroyed. I'm going to read it again. Isaiah chapter 66, verse 15 down to verse 17. It says, for behold, the Lord will come with fire. And you all heard of the lake of fire, right? You heard about it. You don't know what it looks like until you see what's going on. The day of the Lord, we don't know what it looks like. We just heard about it. We just read about it, but we don't know what it looks like until it comes, right? But we do know this, according to this scripture, that if you are eating swine's flesh and the abomination and the mouse, when he pulls up, that is your grass. All right. Isaiah chapter 66, verse 15 down to verse 17. For behold, the Lord will come with fire and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many. They that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the garden behind one tree in the midst, eating swine's flesh, and the abomination and the mouse shall be consumed together, saith the Lord. Now, what does it mean that they that sanctify themselves? You know, those so-called Christians who think that they are holier than thou. I've been baptized. Don't touch me, right? Don't sit near me. They sanctify themselves. I'm saved. I'm chosen by God. But every time they go to a restaurant, they got pork bacon on their plate. They got ham on their plate. They celebrating Christmas, they eating ham. They celebrating Thanksgiving, they cutting ham, baking it, cooking it, frying it. They eating bologna, pepperoni pizza, right? Christianity and pork bacon go hand in hand, right? You barely meet Christians that don't eat pork. So this is what this is talking about. When you're dealing with people who sanctify themselves. I'm spiritual. I got a relationship with God. I'm saved. I'm good. I'm righteous. And make no mistake about it. There were people during the time of Isaiah being written who was thinking this same thing. Ecclesiastes tells us that there's nothing new under the sun, right? There are religions and practices that are very similar to the religions and practices that we see today. All right. So we see these type of things. Let's deal with the book of Deuteronomy chapter 14 and verse 8. And the swine, because it divideth the hoof, yet cheweth not the cud, it is unclean unto you. Ye shall not eat of their flesh, nor touch their dead carcass. So this part right here in verse 8, you should not eat of their flesh, nor touch their dead carcass. This is why I said it's not expedient to have pigs on your farm if you are a farmer. It's not expedient, because what's going to happen when that pig dies? You got to get rid of that pig. You got to get it from around you, right? You should not, it's important that you know the things that contain swine. It's important that you know the things that people put pork in, so that you can know, what's going on, because you're technically touching the dead carcass of the pig, right? There are certain hairbrushes that have boar hair, right, that you can't use, right? There's pork in certain foods that you didn't think was there, right? Gelatin, right? Major. So a lot of these things that we see on these pictures show you what contains the swine. And that's what you want to stay away from, these things. It's important to take care of your body so that you don't get diabetes and you don't have to take insulins and don't have to be injected with swine in your bloodstream. Okay? Which goes into my next point, that the enemy is not focused on or caring about you keeping the law. They're trying to keep you from keeping the law, right? These other nations have authority to rule over us when we are not keeping the laws of God. Okay? And our people don't believe what I just said, that other nations have authority to rule over us. So I'm going to prove it, right? We have the book of 1 Kings, chapter 8, and I'm going to shoot down to starting at verse 46, right? And this is King Solomon's prayer, right? This is the book of 1 Kings, chapter 8, verse 46. If they sin against thee, for there is no man that sinneth not, and thou be angry with them, and deliver them to the enemy, so that they carry them away captives unto the land of the enemy, far or near. Now, let's pause right here. We know that the context is only dealing with the Israelites, because all nations were not delivered as slaves to their captives. All nations were not slaves, right? At least not in the four corners of the earth, right? You may have Asian on Asian slavery. You may have African on African slavery. Hey, what I see is Israelites being and what the Bible teaches is that the Israelites were slaves and were in captivity amongst the four corners of the earth in every country, right? That's what the scriptures is indicating. And that happened when we went off as a nation, when we weren't keeping the law. This goes to prove to you that Israel only has been given the law, according to Psalms 147, 19 and 20. According to Isaiah 63 and 19. Israel alone has received the law, statutes, and commandments. Israel alone has been called by the name of the Lord. So I just want y'all to understand that, right? Anytime Israel is in sin and they go off, we are sent into slavery. And these other nations basically have permission to rule over us, right? Verse 47, yet if they shall bethink themselves in the land whither they were carried captives, and repent and make supplication unto thee in the land of them that carried them captives, saying, we have sinned and have done perversely, we have committed wickedness, and so return. So let's deal with that. That is talking about in the land of our captivities, we are supposed to remember the Lord. This is why Israelites go so hard with asking other fellow Israelites who don't know that they're Israelites, hey, what's your nationality? If you say black or African American, I know that you don't know your family history. I know that you don't know what country in Africa your family bloodline come from. Out of 54 countries, you don't know what country in Africa your family bloodline comes from. That alone gives us the understanding that you align with Jeremiah 17:4, which is a curse. You also align with the curses in Deuteronomy 28. Your family was brought here on slave ships. We ask you, where are your great-grandparents from? And if you tell us a country in the South that had slaves, right? Like it's ways to go into this and figure this out. You were an Israelite. You are an Israelite based off of the curses that your family bloodline went through in these things. That's how we were able to figure that out. Right? Verse 48. And so return unto thee. What does it mean to return unto thee? To get back to the law, statutes, and commandments. Remember, in the land, and the scriptures talks about there being a great awakening, that Israelites will remember who they are and remember the Lord in the land of their captivity. Once that happens, we get back to the law, statutes, and commandments, and we have an opportunity to be blessed and to be saved when the Lord comes back, right? Because we're keeping the commandments. Verse 48. And so return unto thee with all their heart and with all their soul in the land of their enemies, which led them away captives, and pray unto thee toward their land, right? So to pray unto thee toward their land, that means you're praying toward the east. You're not sun worshiping, but you're praying toward Jerusalem when you're praying, which is toward the east, right? That's important. Which led them away captive, and pray unto thee toward their land, right? Which is Jerusalem, which thou gavest unto their fathers, the city which thou hast chosen, and the house which I have built for thy name. All right. And then verse 49 says, then hear thou their prayer. So this is what Solomon is asking of the Lord. If these Israelites in these land of their captivity remember who they are, remember who you are, get back to the law, statutes, and commandments, right? Now Solomon is asking of the Lord in verse 49, watch this. Then hear thou their prayer and their supplication in heaven, thy dwelling place, and maintain their cause, and forgive thy people that have sinned against thee, and all their transgressions wherein they have transgressed against thee, and give them compassion before them who carried them captive, that they may have compassion on them. You see that? So when the Lord begins to have compassion on the Israelites, the other nations are going to have compassion on us as well. The other nations are kicking the dust up on us because the Lord turned his back. He turned his face from us because we turned our face from him. Again, like we said in previous videos, stop asking God for relationships that aren't reciprocal. You want him to answer your prayers. You want him to do everything you want him to do, right? But you don't want to do something simple as keeping dietary law. It's the law. When the scriptures in the New Testament say the law is done away with, it's talking about animal sacrifice. It's not saying that all the law is done away with. It's crazy when we say this to Christians. We ask them this question: is all the law done away with? And they would say yes. But then turn around and say, oh, okay, well, is it okay to commit adultery now? And they would say no. And they would ball their face up with answering the question like, no. So what do you mean? The law? I thought the law was done away with. Right? Can we commit adultery now? No. Okay. Can I steal from you now? No. Okay. Can I murder you? No. Okay. So what are we talking about? What law is done away with? Right? And then they would have to come up with a doctrine that the Christian pastor taught them, that he was taught from the Catholics, right? And it just goes on and on. The Christian church was created to get you away from the law. The Christianity as a religion, it doesn't teach you the law. This is why you can be in a church for 30 years and not know what the Sabbath is. You can be in a church for 30 years and not know that the Bible says, not the Quran, the Bible says that you cannot eat pork bacon. You cannot eat swine. That you cannot eat crab, shrimp, and lobster. Right? That's crazy. So this is why we make these type of documentaries and stuff like that. Watch this. I got some more information for y'all. Step right up, everything's fine. Let's break the laws of God for $12.99. You see that? Right? How much does Wawa pizza cost? The only con is the cost, which ranges from $12.99 for a 14-inch plain pizza to $18 for a 16-inch with sausage and pepperoni. You see that? Right? Let's break the laws of God for $18. I want you to understand that sausage is not just beef. There's a mixture of swine with that sausage. You gotta know that. All right? You gotta know that. Our pizza costs $15.99 on average. A large plain pizza in my area costs about $15. Right? But Wawa Pizza has one thing going for it that your local pizzeria does not. It is available until 3 a.m. All right? So you can break the laws of God all hours of the night. Everybody understand? Right? So you got the pepperoni, and y'all know that's swine, right? The sausage most definitely has that swine in it. Please don't be fooled. Please don't think it doesn't. It does, right? I stopped eating beef years ago. Yes, beef is lawful, but what they're doing in these factories, I don't trust it, right? I stopped eating beef because of what they do to cows, them pumping cows, stuff like that. I also stopped eating beef because they be mixing it with pork. You know what I mean? There's a couple of restaurants that, sausage, egg, and cheese, and then you find out that sausage, beef sausage, got a mixture of pork with it. I don't know why they do that. Actually, I do know why, right? It's for the consumer, right? And who's more of a bigger consumer than the Israelites who don't know that they Israelites, that break the laws of God in ignorance, right? That's why we make these type of documentaries. That's why we make these type of videos, right? To get y'all some understanding. So now we have the Pizza Hut, right? And you'll see the prices. You know what I mean? And it just goes on, right? So let's get into some of these commercials.
Do you really think this is the right thing for us to be doing, Ivana?
What will people think?
Let them talk.
Donald.
Ivana. It's wrong, isn't it?
But it feels so right.
Then it's a deal?
Yes, we eat our pizza the wrong way.
Crust first.
Introducing stuffed crust pizza from Pizza Hut. With a ring of cheese baked into a totally new, thinner crust, you'll want to eat it the wrong way. Crust first.
May I have the last slice?
Actually, you're only entitled to half.
Large, just $9.99.
Meat lovers, it's time to meet your match. Introducing the new Big Boss Meat Lovers Pizza from Pizza Hut. At nearly a meter long, there's more meat than meets the eye, which makes it great for family meetings, weddings, and other commitments. With loads of meaty toppings, 3 delicious sauces, and a price that meets the budget, R209.90. It's the meatiest mouthful you'll ever meet. Only at Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut.
Kind of feels like everyone's trying to copy the $5 biggie bag. So how can you spot a knockoff? It won't taste like Wendy's. This job is easy. When the deal is as fresh as the meal, gotta be Wendy's.
Gotta be fresh.
Here's your biggie bag. All that food for $5, that's my go-to.
Ooh, that's my ride or die.
Just like you and me. Bag boys. Bag boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when we bring your food?
Go biggie and get all this with the JBC for just $5.
This combo meal's got combinations. Make this thing your own creation. Entree, drink, and choice of sides. Oh, and it's free to swap fries. BK, have it your way.
Behold, the Garlic and Bacon King. A sandwich with sizzly, crispy bacon that we wanted to make even crispier. So boom, crispy garlic. Now that's a crispy burger. Try the Garlic and Bacon King only at Burger King.
All right, now I saw this on the internet, right? 2025 menu for Dunkin' Donuts. Man, take a look at that. You know what I mean? Are we seeing the hoagie in the back? Right? That looks like swine, right? That look like bacon on this sandwich right here. I don't even know what that is. But that's bacon on it right there. These donuts got swine in it, right? Monoglyceride, diglyceride, right? Let's look more into it. We have more on this menu, right? Dunkin' Donuts menu deals and discounts for March 2025, all right? We have sausage, egg, and cheese sandwich, crispy hash browns, medium hot or iced coffee, $6. Right? Again, that sausage has pork in it. Right? You gotta understand that. They got the Get Snackin' Bacon for just $2. Right? That's the bacon that's in the bag. You know what I mean? They selling bacon in the bag like hash browns, right? It's a new thing Dunkin' Donuts is doing. Spring specials. So you got your Dunkin' Latte with your pistachio coffee, ham and Swiss pretzel sliders, chicken and bacon, right? Croissant stuffer. Alright, so this is just the top part of the menu, and already we have 3 out of 5 swine. And look at the low prices, right? $6, right? Okay, $2, right? And the prices vary for the chicken and bacon croissant stuffer, right? Ham and Swiss pretzel sliders. That's crazy. Like, like that's crazy, right? Let's look at the rest of this menu. Let's see what we got. Enjoy your medium Dunkin' refresher for $3. Oh, here we go. 2 wake up wrap sandwiches, egg, cheese, choice of bacon, sausage, turkey sausage, or meat. All swine, right? $5. You see that? Get ham and Swiss pretzel sliders for $3 with any drink purchase, right? Get chicken and bacon croissant stuffer for $3 with any drink purchase. All right. So y'all see that? You know what I mean? They are putting swine in your face. Why are they going so hard, all these restaurants, to sell bacon? Why are they going so hard? That's the question you need to be asking. Why are they going so hard to push swine in your face? Right? Because they know it's unlawful. But you don't. You don't know it's unlawful. Right? Our people don't care about the law, statutes, and commandments. Our people don't care about the word of the Most High. And it's time to get out of that. That's why we put these documentaries and stuff like that together, to wake up our people. Alright, we've shown you some scriptures. Hopefully, you took heed to that. But we got some more information for you. We're not done. Watch this.
We thought it was a hoax. We actually found a tiny little slug-like maggot-looking worm that wraps around the toothpick.
It's moving!
And it's moving. What is it? Ugh.
And just lay in it and then eat some more. That's a pig. Its body is filled, its flesh is filled with a little worm called the trachina worm. You notice when you put that bacon and lay it down and then you cook it, shrivel all up. You don't know what you're doing. But if you want to have an experiment, take a little piece of pork and put it under a glass and leave it there for a while. See if the glass don't walk away. Little worms. And those worms, in order to kill the worms, you have to cook the pork to with a high degree of heat, but the heat doesn't kill the worm. It wakes up as it gets in your system, and it crawls around in you, hits the spinal cord, goes right on up the spinal cord into the brain, and the messenger said once it gets in the brain, you'll never get rid of it. Never. It sounds your mental power, and it takes away your beauty appearance. The more hog you eat, pretty soon you start getting uglier and uglier, and you begin to look like that bad boy. Now, if you want to start looking better and feeling better almost immediately, stop eating hog tonight.
Reasons why you should stop eating pork. Pigs are one of the dirtiest animals in the world. Pigs eat their own poop. Pigs carry many deadly diseases like hepatitis E, swine flu, and other deadly viruses. Eating swine flesh can cause you cancer. It's forbidden to eat pork according to the Bible and the Quran.
Alright, family, we back at it. This is the B-side to You Don't Have to Put Pork on Everything. Right? And what we are exposing in this documentary, if you haven't seen it thus far, they are putting pork on everything. Just about, right? If you do enough research, you'll find that you'll barely have anything to eat. All right. It is indeed expedient to be doing your own research and making sure that you're not eating things that pertain swine. You know what I mean? And just expecting to have the mercy of the Father put on you because you didn't know that this had pork in it. I wouldn't gamble with my salvation like that. If the scriptures say he is going to destroy you when he pulls up behind you eating swine, then that's what it is. Right? So right here what we see is the spam. And a lot of us as so-called blacks, so-called African Americans, grew up eating spam, right? As well as we grew up eating fried bologna, right? We grew up eating pepperoni pizza. We grew up eating the meat lovers cheese pizza for birthday parties or, you know, just some type of family occasion going on or just because. You know what I mean? We ate swine, right? Ridiculous. We were fed bacon by family members who believed that the law was done away with and that, you know, you can eat what you want, you know, completely taking these scriptures out of context. You know, there are members of my family that took Acts 10 out of context, and they justified feeding us bacon behind such. Plenty to take Matthew 15 and Mark chapter 7 out of context. You know what I mean? So we're going to dig into all that. We're going to dig into all of that, right? Let's do that. All right, this is the book of Matthew chapter 15, starting at verse 1. Then came to Hamashiach scribes and Pharisees which were at Jerusalem, saying, Why do thy disciples transgress the tradition of the elders? For they wash not their hands when they eat bread. All right, keep in mind what they just said. They wash not their hands when they eat bread. All right, so the context is about unwashed hands. All right, keep that in mind. Verse 3. But he answered and said unto them, Why do ye also transgress the commandment of God by your traditions? For God commanded, saying, Honor thy father and mother, and he that curseth father or mother, let him die the death. But ye say, Whosoever shall say to his father or his mother, It is a gift by whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me, and honor not his father or his mother, he shall be free. All right, so right here, the Messiah is calling Pharisees out on not honoring their mother and father, on not respecting their mother and father. I'm a gift to you, right? That you had me. I'm the gift. I'm more important than you, right? Verse 6. And honor not his father or his mother, he shall be free. Thus have ye made the commandment of God of none effect by your traditions. Ye hypocrites, well did Esaias prophesy of you, saying, now Esaias is Isaiah. That's how they say it in, it's a Grecian way of saying it, right? Verse 7. Ye hypocrites, well did Esaias prophesy of you, saying, This people draweth nigh unto me with their mouth, and honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. But in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. And he called the multitude and said unto them, Hear and understand, not that which goeth into the mouth defileth a man, but that which cometh out of the mouth, this defileth a man. So right here, between verse 1 and verse 11, the context was about unwashed hands and him rebuking Pharisees for not honoring their mother and father, as he's pointing their wrong out behind them trying to point out the wrong in their eyes of his disciples who ate food with unwashed hands, right? And there could have been anything on their hands. You know, people are working, people have jobs. They could have been working in a farm. You know what I mean? They could have had dirt on their hands, hay residue, whatever it is. We don't know. It could have been oil. We don't know, right? All we know is that their hands were not washed. They were unclean hands, and they were eating bread, right? And the Pharisees had a problem with that. And the Messiah pointed out something that was more wrong that they did, which went against the commandments, right? Eating with unwashed hands does not go against the commandments. Obviously today we wouldn't, you know, we would tell people that they should wash their hands, but that's not something that will endanger your salvation. And that's what the Messiah was trying to get to. Verse 12. Then came his disciples and said unto him, Knowest thou that the Pharisees were offended after they heard this saying? But he answered and said, Every plant which my heavenly Father have not planted shall be rooted up. Let them alone. They be blind leaders of the blind. And if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into the ditch. Then answered Peter and said unto him, Declare unto us this parable. And Hamashiach said, Are ye also without understanding? Do not ye yet understand that whatsoever entereth into the mouth goeth into the belly, and is cast out into the draught? But those things which proceedeth out of the mouth come forth from the heart, and they defileth a man. For out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornication, theft, false witness, blasphemies. These are the things which defileth a man. But to eat with unwashen hands defileth not a man. It doesn't say to eat bacon, to eat crab, shrimp, lobster, to eat anything that Deuteronomy 14 or Leviticus 11 tells you not to eat. It doesn't say anything like that about that doesn't defile you. People will stop right there in verse 17, where it says anything that goes into the mouth goes into the belly and is cast out into the draught. So because it says whatsoever entereth into the mouth, right? They take that as you being able to eat whatever you want. But again, we're dealing with people that know the law. So Christ doesn't have to explain to the Pharisees and to the disciples that he's not saying, hey, you can't eat bacon. They already know they can't eat bacon. Any disciple following the Messiah already knows they can't eat bacon. The Pharisees know they can't eat bacon. You want to eat bacon, so you want to take that out of context. Right? And we do not justify anybody doing wrong. But if that's what makes you feel good at night and you want to transgress the laws of God, that's between you and him. We're not here to continuously talk to the same people over and over again and try to get them to understand that they shouldn't be eating swine. Right? Just know that there is judgment coming your way when the Lord pulls up and you are eating swine's flesh. We already showed you that in Isaiah 66. All right. So this is what the fuss was about in Matthew 15, starting at verse 1 down to verse 20, regarding unwashed hands. That was the context of the conversation. That's what that was talking about. All right. All right. Now here we are in Mark chapter 7. Same context, same account. All right. It's the book of Mark chapter 7, starting at verse 1. Then came together unto him the Pharisees and certain of the scribes which came from Jerusalem. And when they saw some of his disciples eat bread with defiled, that is to say, with unwashed hands, they found fault. All right, again, so the context is about unwashed hands. It's not about eating things that Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14 told you that was unlawful. All right, people just want to be lawless, try to use the Bible to debunk other scriptures in the Bible. All right, verse 3. For the Pharisees and all the Jews, except they wash their hands oft, eat not, holding the tradition of the elders. All right. And when they come from the market, except they wash, they eat not. And many other things there be, which they have received to hold, as the washing of cups and pots, brazen vessels, and of tables. So it's similar to what we do today. We usually don't eat unless we wash our hands. We don't eat or drink unless, nobody wants to eat with unwashed hands. Nobody wants to eat from dirty vessels, right? Dirty pots, dirty pans, dirty cups. Like we don't typically do that either. But it's not unlawful. It's not something that will endanger your salvation. And that's what we're going to get into, right? Then the Pharisees and scribes asked him, why walk not thy disciples according to the tradition of the elders, but eat bread with unwashed hands? He answered and said unto them, well have Esaias prophesied of you, hypocrites. As it is written, this people honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. For laying aside the commandment of God, ye hold the tradition of men, as the washing of pots and cups, and many other such like things you do. Verse 9, and he said unto them, full well ye reject the commandment of God, that ye may keep your own tradition. For Moses said, honor thy father and thy mother, and whoso curseth father or mother, let him die the death. But ye say, if a man shall say to his father or mother, it is Corban, that is to say, a gift by whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me, he shall be free. And ye suffer him no more to do aught for his father or his mother, making the word of God of none effect, through your tradition, which ye have delivered. And many such like things do ye. Right? Verse 14. And when he had called all the people unto him, he said unto them, hearken unto me, every one of you, and understand, there is nothing from without a man that entereth into him can defile him. But the things which come out of him, those are they that defile the man. If any man have ears to hear, let him hear. And when he was entered into the house from the people, his disciples asked him concerning the parable, right? Because they're kind of confused. Because I know that this guy is not telling me that whatever I eat doesn't defile me. So now you gotta, just for clarity, I need you to break down what you're saying, right? Declare unto me this parable, right? Verse 18, and he saith unto him, are ye so without understanding also? Do you not perceive that whatsoever thing from without entereth into the man, it cannot defile him? Because it entereth not into his heart, but into the belly, and goeth out into the draught, purging all meats. Now, here's where there's a discrepancy with this, because there are plenty of cases where people have been eating swine for years and they have clogged arteries. They have heart disease, right? And they have to have their pancreases removed in these things behind eating swine, tapeworms that develop in their bodies, right? Which causes these heart attacks that these people are dealing with, and this high blood pressure. So we can't be saying, or the Messiah can't be saying that all meats, as in anything that people choose to eat on the planet, won't defile you. He's not saying that. And what's understood doesn't have to be explained. In other words, these people knew the law, so they knew he wasn't saying that you cannot eat these foods, but you can eat those foods. Right? Verse 19, because it entereth not into his heart, but into the belly. Right? Now, there's plenty of times when people eat things and they have problems and they begin to have heart disease, right? Behind what they're eating. So he's not, we know that what you eat sometimes can affect your heart. No, it doesn't go into the heart as it's being digested. It does go into the belly. But when you have a blockage, when you have backup, when you have poor digestive system, it can affect your heart. Okay? So it's not talking about that. All right, but let's continue. Because it entereth not into his heart, but into the belly, and goeth out into the draught, purging all meats. And he said, that which cometh out of the man, that defileth the man. For from within, out of the heart of men, proceed evil thoughts, adulteries, fornications, murders, theft, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lasciviousness, an evil eye, blasphemy, pride, foolishness. All these evil things cometh from within and defile the man. All right. So that is the context. The same context in Matthew chapter 15 is the same context in Mark chapter 7. And it's about unwashed hands. It's not about, oh, you can eat what you want, because he said all meats. He's referring to all meats that are lawful in the Bible. Right? Keep in mind, Isaiah 66 now, because of Christ. Here's where there is a situation in the text, right? What we call a contradiction in the scriptures. If you're taking it like Christ is saying that you can eat whatever you want based off of Matthew chapter 15 and Mark chapter 7, when we know Isaiah 66 hasn't happened yet, you now have to blame Christ on the day of judgment when you are being judged and executed behind eating swine. Christ said I can eat it in Matthew chapter 15 and Mark chapter 7. That right there makes absolutely no sense. Because you lean on Christ for salvation. You lean on Christ to believe in him. You lean on Christ. John 3:16, right? He died for the whole world, right? So then why is the Lord going to punish you when he pulls up behind you eating swine's flesh? That same Lord that said that you can eat swine didn't say it verbatim, but you take all meats as in swine is included. Matthew chapter 15 and Mark chapter 7. You're taking it like he's saying that you can eat all meats, including swine's flesh. So that same Lord is going to come back and destroy you for eating swine's flesh, according to Isaiah 66. That makes absolutely no sense. And there is a contradiction in the Bible. So obviously it's not saying that you can eat whatever you want. It's saying that you can eat what pertaineth to dietary law. That's what it's talking about. Acts chapter 10, starting at verse 1. There was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band. All right, this is an Israelite. Some would say that he's a Gentile, but this man is an Israelite. How do we know that? Verse 2. A devout man and one that feareth God with all his house, which gave much alms to the people and prayed to God always. Okay. Only Israel was given the law. Okay. And only Israel was ever called by the name of the Lord. We see that in Isaiah 63 and 19. We see that in Psalm 147, 19 and 20. We see that in the book of Joel, chapter 2 and verse 27. Those are three witnesses. Now ask yourself, does the Bible say at the mouth of two or three witnesses shall every matter be established? Let's continue. He saw in a vision evidently about the 9th hour of the day an angel of God coming in to him and saying unto him, Cornelius. And when he looked on him, he was afraid and said, What is it, Lord? And he said unto him, Thine prayers and thine arms are come up for a memorial before God. And now send men to Joppa and call for Simon, whose surname is Peter. He lodged with one Simon a tanner, whose house is by the seaside. He shall tell thee what thou oughtest to do. Just give you a little context. Then it goes into Cornelius sending men to Joppa and all these things, right? So, verse 7. And when the angel which spake unto Cornelius was departed, he called 2 of his household servants and a devout soldier of them that waited on him continually. And when he declared all these things unto them, he sent them to Joppa. On the morrow, as they went on their journey and drew nigh unto the city, Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour. And he became very hungry and would have eaten, but while they made ready, he fell into a trance. All right, so here's where we begin to get into the point of why I'm reading Acts chapter 10. And I got to read from verse 1 for those who say, oh, you got to read it in context. All right. So verse 11. And saw heaven open, and a certain vessel descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the 4 corners, and let down to the earth. Verse 12. Wherein were all manner of 4-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. Now, if anybody knows anything about Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14, there are 4-footed beasts that we are not permitted to eat. Right? And creeping things that we are not permitted to eat. All right? It'll explain itself in due time. Let's continue. Verse 13. And there came a voice to him, and this is red letter. Rise, Peter, kill and eat. Verse 14. But Peter said, not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. Okay. The voice spake unto him again the 2nd time. What God have cleansed, that call not thou common. This was done thrice. In other words, it was done 3 times. And the vessel was received up again into heaven. Let's be clear with this. The Lord did not tell Peter to kill and eat the actual animals or insects that he saw on that sheet that were unlawful. It is a metaphor to speak to his fellow brothers that are Israelites to kill that spirit in them that is unclean, representing those unclean animals on the sheet and the creeping things. That's all the way in verse 28, right? I'm reading this for y'all so that y'all can see context. So I don't just go to read verse 13, then go down to verse 28. You know what I mean? Oh, he skipped these verses. He didn't want us to see it. I'm going to read it for you, right? Verse 17. Now, while Peter doubted in himself what this vision which he had seen should mean, behold, the men which were sent from Cornelius had made inquiry for Simon's house and stood before the gate. So Peter is doubting in himself what this vision mean. In other words, I know the Lord is not telling me that I can now eat things that are unlawful. Right? When did he clean or cleanse these unlawful foods? When did he cleanse these unlawful animals? When did he cleanse these unlawful insects? Right? Creeping things upon the floor. I know he's not telling me that I can eat unlawful food. I know that he's not telling me that I can eat unlawful animals. Right? Which was never considered food. I know he's not telling me that I can eat unlawful creeping things, which was never considered food. Right? Let's continue. Verse 18. And called and asked whether Simon, which was surnamed Peter, were lodged there. Right? In other words, is this man here? Is he home? Right? While Peter thought on the vision, the Spirit said unto him, behold, 3 men seek thee. Arise, therefore, and get thee down, and go with them, doubting nothing, for I have sent them. Okay, you see that? Now he just saw on a great roll on a sheet that had 4 corners, animals and creeping things that were unlawful. And now he has 3 men at the door looking for him. And the Spirit is telling him to go down there and to speak to them, doubting nothing. That's very important. That's very important. All right. Then Peter went down to the men which were sent unto him from Cornelius, and said, Behold, I am he whom ye seek. What is the cause wherefore ye are come? And they said, Cornelius the centurion, a just man, and one that feareth God, and of good report among all the nation of the Jews, was warned from God by an holy angel to send for thee into his house, and to hear words of thee. Then called he them in, and lodged them. And on the morrow Peter went away with them, and certain brethren from Joppa accompanied him. And the morrow after they entered into Caesarea, and Cornelius waited for them, and had called together his kinsmen and near friends. And as Peter was coming in, Cornelius met him, and fell down at his feet, and worshipped him. But Peter took him up, saying, Stand up, I myself also am a man. All right. And as he talked with him, he went in and found many that were come together. Verse 28, here's the point. And he said unto them, Ye know how that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come unto one of another nation. But God hath showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. Now, my question to you guys out there that's watching, when from verse 1 down to verse 27 did God tell Peter not to call any man common or unclean? When did he say that? Because that's not what we just read. We do not see that. But what we see is him receiving and being shown a sheet with unlawful animals, unclean animals, and creeping things that are forbidden to eat. And Peter is saying, I have never eaten anything common or unclean. And the Lord is saying to Peter, that what I cleanse, call not thou common or unclean. He never said anything about calling any man common or unclean. But when Peter got to the house, he began to receive said revelation. And he got the understanding of the parable that was given to him. He got the understanding of what the dream that he had. And he's realizing now that these brothers who he has to minister to, they were the common and unclean. Their spirits were in representation of those unclean beasts and creeping things that he's seeing on that road. Read the chapter again for yourself, starting at verse 1. When did the Lord tell Peter not to call any man common or unclean? You don't see that. But what you see is him telling Peter not to call anything that he cleansed common or unclean. So all that lets you know is it's not saying that you can eat unlawful foods. It's not even considered food. It's not telling you that you can eat unlawful animals and creeping things. He was comparing other fellow Israelites who fell away, preferably Northern Kingdom, right? He was telling Peter to minister to them and to kill the unclean spirit in them. All right.
All right, get in there. What's up, young blood? What's up? Swine, my brother? Nah, no thanks. Now let me tell you something. If you hit a man in time, his wounds will heal. And if you steal from a man, you can replace what you steal. And always cross in the green, never in between. Honorable Elijah Muhammad Ali floats like a butterfly and stings like a bee.
Just thinking about spending another minute with Farrakhan made me never want to do time in the joint again.
Boy, am I happy to see you, man. And always remember, my brother, one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish, knick-knack, paddywhack, get a dog a bone.
0-0 party. Oops, out of time. My bacon smelling fine.
Monoglycerides in pork. All right, monoglycerides are a type of fat molecule that can be derived from various sources, including pork. Resources of monoglycerides. Pork fat. Monoglycerides can be extracted from pork fat through a process called hydrolysis. All right. Now, keep in mind where it says monoglycerides can be. That's how they trip you up. It is extracted from pork fat. All right. Vegetable oils. Some vegetable oils, such as coconut oil and palm oil, also contain monoglycerides. All right. So you got to look on the labels on the back of your products that you are buying from these stores. You have to look on the ingredients. And the sad part is some of the ingredients will not have these things. Especially when information like this is brought out that exposes certain companies. So they just take it off the label. Right. So it's really sad. Uses of monoglycerides in pork products. Emulsifiers. Monoglycerides help to mix water and oil, making them useful as emulsifiers in pork products such as sausages, bacon, and lard. So remember earlier when we was talking about them breakfast sandwiches, those sausage breakfast sandwiches. I told you that is pork, right? They are mixing pork with beef, which is why I do not eat beef and haven't eaten beef in well over 12 years, right? At least purposefully, I have not been eating beef. Things that we see on a regular basis. When you're getting food from Dunkin' Donuts, breakfast sandwiches, that sausage is pork. You're getting it from McDonald's, sausage is pork. A lot of Burger King sausage, pork. You know what I mean? Why are they so hyped to put pork in your face? Again, like we was breaking down. The number one consumer is the so-called black, right? So-called Hispanic and Native American, right? The Israelites, okay? And they want you to be in sin. They want you to be in error because what comes with that is them ruling over you, right? If they have the authority to rule over you because you are in sin, that further longs the process of, us being in these, in the land of our captivity, right? Texture enhancer. They can improve the texture of pork products by making them softer and more creamy, right? Preservative. Monoglycerides can extend the shelf life of pork products by preventing spoilage. So what that just lets you know right there, where it says monoglycerides can extend the shelf life of pork products by preventing spoilage. All right. So anything that they put pork in, when you walk into a store, a lot of times if it's on the shelf and the date is like a year later in expiration, and I'm not saying that with everything, but there are things that have pork in them, like your monoglycerides, your diglycerides, your gelatin. The extension in that thing, the expiration is a year later, right? That's what that's saying to you, to prevent spoilage, right? So this is crazy. All right, so and we have more to read. Watch this. All right. Oh man, this is disgusting. Like, ooh wee. Our people grew up on fried bologna. Our people grew up on raw bologna, right? Cold cuts. Whatever this is, this looks like chopped bologna. Got some green stuff in there to improvise. Man, that looks disgusting, man. I want y'all to know, man, for this information, this documentary I've been putting together, y'all don't know how many times I, you know, you get ready, you know what I mean? Like, y'all know how many times I done went through that. That's crazy. Right, foods that contain pork. Right, Doritos. You know what I mean? Donuts from Dunkin' Donuts. Right, grape jelly. Yes, Crest toothpaste. Crazy. We grew up using Crest toothpaste. Right? Of course, the gummy bears, they got gelatin in it. Right? Your Kool-Aid jammers, juice boxes. Right? So, not only have we been eating pork, right? Regular pork, bologna, ham, pepperoni, Doritos, Skittles, gummy bears, donuts, right? Grape jelly on our peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. We have been drinking swine, drinking pork, literally, from your Kool-Aid jammers, from Kool-Aid, right? You go to McDonald's, get the apple pie, pork. Eating Cheetos, pork. Right? Madness. Right? Why are they so hyped to put that pork everywhere? Right? What is it about the swine that just, they know they can have you in error with that swine? That's crazy. It's crazy. Let's continue. All right, so right here is a chart of the things that pork is used for, right? A bunch of things that they put pork in, right? Things that come from the pig, right? Fatty acids and glycerin, all right? You'll see your insecticides, right? Weed killers, lubricants, right? Oil polishes, rubber, right? So, you know, go figure, right? What kind of rubber? Hey, you know, you got to do your discernment with that. But I'm assuming, I don't want to assume all kinds of rubber. But yes, rubber, right? Cosmetics, antifreeze. Now, a lot of us are going to have to chalk that up when it comes to the antifreeze, because we need our cars, right? To get around, right? Even if you choose not to have a car, at some point you're going to be getting in a car, right? Lyft drivers, Uber drivers, you know, the buses, the trains. I want y'all to know with this documentary, at some point there's going to be something that you need, that you can't get away from, that has swine in it, right? That's kind of the point, right? There's something that you need that you kind of can't get away from, that has swine in it, right? Nitroglycerin, right? Plastics, plasticizers, right? Printing rollers, right? Cellophane, right? Floor waxes, cement. Yes, they are putting swine in the cement that you walk on. Crazy work, right? Waterproofing agents, fiber softeners, crayons, chalk, phonograph records. So like when you have your the records, you know, that they, you know, you see the DJ, he takes the record out of the container, he put it on the DJ booth and he's spinning it, right? Sad to say, but we are touching swine. Phonograph records, right? Matches, you know, when you take and light a match, swine, right? All right, putty, which is what you would use to patch a hole in the wall, right? Crazy madness. Insulation, right? Linoleum, right? And keep in mind, people, you can look each word up and research this information on Google, right? So take a picture of the screen in front of you. Search this picture, everything but the oink, byproducts from pigs, right? Internal organs from the swine, right? Insulin, a variety of medicines. Please be careful out there that you don't have to get stitches, because surgical sutures is the option, right? Swine, right? Heart valves, all right? Now we see this as an option when someone's heart valve goes bad, right? They replace it with the pig, right? Pig heart valve replacement is a surgical procedure where a damaged heart valve is replaced with a valve obtained from a pig, right? This procedure is known as a bioprosthetic valve replacement, right? Now, what they see is benefits, right? Benefits: no need for lifelong blood thinners, unlike medical valves. Lower risk of infection compared to human donor valves, and a bunch of other stuff that they will throw in there to convince you that you should take an organ from a pig when you are dealing with said situation. All right, so you do your own discernment, man. But you can look this stuff up on the internet. These are the facts, right? Let's continue. And we see these things, right? So the skin of the swan, what they use for that: gelatin, right? Footballs, porcine burn dressing. All right, so if someone has been burned, they usually take the skin of the pig and put it on a human, and this is why their skin doesn't heal the way it's supposed to, right? Got our people, looking crazy, right? Porcine burn dressings, right? So that's man, this is heartbreaking information, right? But this is indeed a fact in what we're seeing. Luggage, purses, gloves, and shoes. Pigskin garments. All right, pigskin garments refer to clothing and accessories made from leather processed from the skin of a pig, known for its durability, flexibility, and breathability, making it suitable for various garments and items like gloves, shoes, and lining. All right, so this is what we just read. We just saw that on the list of things that pertain to swine. All right, let's move forward. We got some more. Now, the blood of the swine, disgusting, goes into your medicines, sticking agent, leather treating agent, right? Plywood adhesive, protein source and feeds, right? So you want to make sure that protein that you are intaking ain't from the blood of pigs. It's crazy, right? Fabric printing and dyeing, right? Madness. The hair of the swan, as you know, your art brushes, your insulation. That's right. Insulation that you put in your house. When people are building houses, the insulation that they put in the house comes from the hair of a pig. Madness. Which could possibly have an error in our feast days when we want to keep things like Passover. We looking for leaven to get that out of our house, right? But if they've used the hair of a pig to put insulation in your house, right? Upholstery, which also goes into the furniture that you may have in your house. All right. So as we peel back more and more, we are finding more and more. Literally. The bones of the swan. All right. So we have glue. We have buttons. We have bone china, bone meal, minerals for feed, fertilizers, porcelain enamel, glass, water filters. All these things derive from swan, right? Heartbreaking, right? That's what I said. Meat scraps, commercial feeds, pet food, right? So yes, you are feeding your dog and or your cat swan. It's crazy. They work hard to keep you in error. Very hard. They work hard to do it. And if you did not know anything about this list prior to watching this documentary, then they have done a great job at keeping you in error, right? By having you dealing in and using things that pertain swan in your everyday life. All right, let's move on. All right, now I don't know how far we're going to have to go for some of y'all, right? They had to pull this tapeworm out of this woman's body. They had to put her to sleep to do it, right? Tapeworm that they had to pull out of this woman's body. Look at that. That's crazy. Right? Pay attention to that. Look how long of a tapeworm that is. That thing been in that woman's... Oh, man. Oh, man. That's...
If you don't eat pork, I got bad news for you. I'm at Publix right now and I'm gonna show you something. You see this ingredient right here? Monoglyceride. It's in almost every single bread product in Publix, which means that you're eating pork if you eat bread from Publix. Look at it right there. It's in all of these. Bro, I can't eat nothing. But some of these right here actually don't have it. This is the Cuban bread and it's safe. Look, you see the ingredients? This one is good too. The point I'm trying to tell you is that you need to actually read. Oh, wait. Let me show you something else. Okay, now I'm in this section, the hostess. You see that right there, mono and diglyceride? See right here, it says it can be derived from plant sources, including pork. They are not going to tell you if it's actually from plants or pork. More than likely, it will be from pork. And the crazy thing about it is that it's not just bread, it's cakes, it's cookies, it's crackers. Y'all really need to be mindful when y'all start buying a whole bunch of this stuff, especially if you don't eat pork. Chick-fil-A's bread got it. Burger King's bread got it. Wendy's bread got it. The only one that I saw that didn't have it was Five Guys. But it's insane how they're just sneaking pork into all our food. And if you watch this video all the way to the end and put it in the comments, stop sneaking pork in my food. That way I know you watched it, okay? Bye! And make sure you share this with a friend who doesn't eat pork. That way they know. Bye!
It's the book of Mark, chapter 5, starting at verse 1. And they came over unto the other side of the sea into the country of the Gadarenes. And when he was come out of the ship, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwellings among the tombs, and no man combined him, no, not with chains. All right, so he couldn't be tamed. Nothing can hold him back.
Verse 4. Because that he had been often bound with fetters and chains, and the chains had been plucked asunder by him. So they tried to bind him with chains, and he just always broke through, right? And the fetters broken in pieces. Neither could any man tame him. And always, night and day, he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying and cutting himself with stones. But when he saw Hamashiach afar off, he ran and worshipped him, and cried with a loud voice, and said, What have I to do with thee, Hamashiach, thou Son of the Most High God? I adjure thee by God, that thou torment me not. For he said unto him, Come out of the man, thou unclean spirit. And he asked him, What is thy name? And he answered, saying, My name is Legion, for we are many. And he besought him much, that he would not send them away out of the country. All right. So these Legion were asking the Messiah not to send them out of the country. Right. Verse 11. Now there was there nigh unto the mountains a great herd of swine feeding. Right. And all the devils besought him, saying, Send us into the swine, that we may enter into them. And forthwith Hamashiach gave them leave, and the unclean spirits went out and entered into the swine, and the herd ran violently down a steep place into the sea. They were about 2,000 and were choked in the sea. In other words, they drowned. Right? Now, why am I reading this? I just think that it's ironic that the demons could have asked to go anywhere else, right? Could have jumped on somebody else, but they asked to go into the swine. I think that's very important. I think that's very interesting. That's very critical. They asked to be cast into the swine. Why is that? Only for the swine. Only for them to kill the swine. They were asked to be cast into the swine, and the swine ran down a steep hill, right? And they went into the sea and drowned. I think that's very interesting. Very, very interesting, right? Verse 14. And they that fed the swine fled, and told it in the city and in the country. And they went out to see what it was that was done. Right? Verse 15. And they come to Hamashiach, and see him that was possessed with a devil, and had legion, sitting and clothed in his right mind, and they were afraid. Okay? So the Messiah healed this man. He was clothed in his right mind. Right? He wasn't cutting himself no more. He wasn't trying to hurt himself anymore. The legion wasn't in him anymore. They were cast into the swine as they requested. Right? It's not like the Messiah did it on his own. They asked to be cast into the swine. Right? So I think that's interesting. Yo, this is Brother Black. You're now watching Messiah TV. You will also catch this on YouTube. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. We will have more information for y'all. We will have more edifying videos such as these. We have done a lot of research, a lot of background, a lot of homework on these type of documentaries. We are well studied in the scriptures.
to give y'all this information. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, be on the lookout for more information on Asaya TV. It's like that.